Hi everyone, I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. Welcome to Training Tuesday for November 1st, 2022. This is an extremely special edition. This is going to be an unedited video of our inland carpet python Merlin doing a long distance shifting behavior. This is the course that I set up for him. It is during the day. Prior to me setting this up, Merlin had been at his door trying to get out. So I set this activity up for him. I had plenty of time to work with him. And when I came back, he had gone up onto his perch in one of his basking areas and he was actually turned away from me. So that's where we start the behavior. The first thing that I have to do is make sure that he is receptive to engaging, and I have to make sure that he can perceive my cue, which is the target. So I stick the target in his enclosure and I move it around a little bit until I'm sure that he sees it. As soon as he acknowledges the target and starts moving towards it, I start moving the target in the direction that I want him to go, which is onto this first station. It's a station that's on wheels that I rolled up to his enclosure. He is familiar with this station. He's familiar with the next two stations, the two bird perches. In fact, he has an identical bird perch in his enclosure. The final station that's on top of the scale, he's actually never engaged with before. I want you to watch his behavior. In this instance, I am using a moving target to prompt him from his enclosure to the scale. So this is a type of targeting behavior that's known as following a target over a long distance, and that's what you're seeing here. Merlin oftentimes, when we are working, chooses his own path. He looks at where I have the target. He anticipates where I want him to ultimately be, but he'll go a different route to get there. This time, I really wanted him to follow the target on a specific route and position his body in a very precise way on this station so that I could get a weight. Now you see he hesitates, and this is at the point it dawns on me he's never engaged with this activity station before. This upside down stool with all of these things on it is something I use in a different area of the house, usually with a different group of snakes, and he's never worked on this station before, so this is new to him. It's the first time he's seen it. And then just the night before, I had worked with a reticulated python, two adult Bredl's pythons, a male and a female, and two female python regis on this station. So there are smells on it. And I disinfect the stations a few times a week. I don't disinfect them after each animal because it's a closed collection at this point. My animals have been tested for nidovirus and other diseases that we can proactively test for. And so they all live in the same house, they breathe the same air, they use the same communal spaces. So unless one is sick or a new one comes in, I don't worry about disinfecting the stations and the communal areas between every single animal. I only do that under certain circumstances. I do disinfect the targets in between each use. I was just banking on the fact that he has done this targeting behavior and generalized it to enough locations and gained enough trust in me over 3 years that he would proceed and not worry about the other smells from the other snakes, and that he wouldn't worry about this being a new station. I was hoping that our trust account was big enough that he knew that I wouldn't prompt him onto a station or into an area that would be unsafe for him, that he trusted that I would guide him to a safe area. He gets there, which isn't the end of the behavior because I want to weigh him. So now he has to position his body a specific way on the station to fit his whole 5 feet onto the station. I change the orientation of the target from vertical to horizontal to mark the end of the behavior, and I deliver reinforcement. Now I'm going to just take note of the total weight of Merlin on the station on the scale. and I realized that the scale turned off. These digital scales sometimes automatically turn off if they're left on for a certain amount of time. So I had to remove the station with Merlin on it. I had to turn the scale back on. And then I realized it wasn't set to kilograms, which is how our veterinarian likes the snakes to be weighed. So I changed the units to kilograms, and then I put the station and Merlin back on so that I can get the total weight. This works really well if you know the weight of your station and you know the weight of the reinforcer that you just gave the animal that is now either in their mouth or they're holding or is in their stomach. So this is 7.9 kilograms. And when I move the towel, I put a little pressure on the scale, but it's 7.9 kilograms total weight. So now all I have to do is subtract the weight of the rodent and the station. I gave him a rat pup because I'm going to give him a second reinforcer when we reverse this process. That's what you're about to see right here. Merlin's been on the station, and I'm going to reverse the process and ask him to go back to his enclosure. I've moved the station on wheels. I didn't think that he needed that to get back to his enclosure, and it was going to be in my way because I now have to stand here in order to ask him to come back. You'll see that I'm not putting the target close to him and moving the target too much this time. I'm just positioning the target above that final station, and I'm leaving it there. This is a signal to him that he needs to move from where he's at to that target. I don't care how he gets there. And then once he gets to that target, I will move it into the enclosure. You see that I have the doors, the sliding doors positioned in a middle position so that I can stick my hand that is holding the target through the very right side of the enclosure. He can go in the very left side of the enclosure, and I can target his whole body across to get him back into the enclosure. I've done this many times with him. However, this is where I, as a trainer, failed to set up the environment appropriately before I started. And I haven't realized that yet. I've got the tongs there next to me, and I have the reinforcers on the floor. We don't want to show the animal the reinforcer. We want it to be nearby so that we can deliver the reinforcement upon completion of the behavior. And so right now, I'm just waiting. I'm just patiently waiting for Merlin to move to the target. If you look at Merlin's body, you can see the thick part of his body moving. And I'm, of course, watching that too. So I'm not worried that the front part of his body hasn't come any closer. I can see that he is bringing the back part of his body and the middle part of his body towards his front. Now you can see his head move onto that middle station. And so I'm not worried about anything. He can take his time. There's no rush. It isn't how fast he does this behavior. It's just the fact that he does the behavior and he's choosing to engage in this activity. Now I realize that I didn't move that basket of dog toys and I didn't move that table out of my way. That all needs to be out of my way so that I can stand back against that wall to target him across his enclosure. So now I'm deciding how to best fix my screw up here. And ultimately, I didn't want to mess him up by being a distraction. I'd already moved the dog toys, but then I thought, well, now I have to move this table. The table's heavier, it's clunkier. The reinforcers are right next to the legs of the table. The tongs are next to the legs of the table. I decided just to play this by ear and go with the animal in front of me, go with the environment in front of me, and see if I could work with this without standing in the location I normally stand in. Because Merlin's doing great. He's focused, he's concentrated on the target. Now I've moved it a little bit further. And so at this point, I make the decision that I'm going to just close the doors all the way to the right and try to target him in the left side of his enclosure. I thought about stopping and reinforcing him at this point and just not worrying about the complete behavior. And then I thought, he's doing so well, he's so focused, he's used to these stands, he has one of these bird perches in his enclosure. So I decided I would target him onto his bird perch in his enclosure. I'm asking him to go up and over the very top, one of the very top branches. And then he has a real branch below that. So then I'm asking him to come down to that real branch that's to the left of his water bowl. And he gets down there, and I need to move the target from the other side of the branch to underneath the branch so that Merlin follows the target all the way beneath the branch. And then I want him to come back out the front of his enclosure And I'm having to have him position this way to get his whole body back into his enclosure. And he is doing phenomenally well. So his head is now headed back towards the door, back to his enclosure. And when I'm ready to mark the end of the behavior, you'll see me change the orientation of the target from vertical to horizontal, pause for a few seconds, and then deliver reinforcement, which in this case was a quail. And there, he's back in. I was very relieved that this all went so smoothly and it all went so well. Now I'm just going to let you take a look at what was going on inside of the habitat. Normally, I target him from the left side to the right side and his body's in there all stretched out. This time I had to target him over this bird perch, over his branch, under his branch, and then ask him to bring his head back out the front. And that's so the rest of his body, his whole 5 feet or whatever length he is, followed him into the enclosure. The little tip of his tail that is left in there is not a problem at all. Merlin's also somewhat habituated to touch and handling. It's not his favorite thing, but he tolerates it. And I'm just breathing a sigh of relief here that this whole process, this whole session went so well. And I was extremely proud of him. And every time I watch this video, it almost brings me to tears. I am so proud of the snake and these accomplishments that he has made over our time together over the last 3 years. So I highly recommend that you watch this again, that you turn off the volume and you just watch Merlin's behavior and let me know what you saw. I'm sure you're all dying to know how much Merlin actually weighed after going through all that. And no, I didn't have to go through all that just to get his weight. The point of it was an exercise to determine how effective my training and behavior modification is and how well Merlin is able to learn. And for this particular snake, I could have weighed him using an easier method. But there are some snakes who are averse to touch and handling and who need to be weighed this way, where they're voluntarily shifting in and out. Or there are some snakes that would be dangerous to be in the presence of humans, like venomous snakes. And if you do an activity like this behind protected contact, where the snake is basically weighing themselves, it's safer and less stressful for everyone. But Merlin weighed 1,172 grams. I really encourage you to go back and think about these questions that I had at the beginning. As you watch the video again and you're watching just Merlin's behavior, turn off the sound so that you're not hearing me talk, and tell me what you saw. Did you see operant behavior happening, problem solving, use of working memory, goal-directed behavior, response inhibition, impulse control, an ability to delay reinforcement? Did you see him exhibit mental flexibility, mental focus? What other things did you see that amazed you or confused you or that you have questions about? Let me know in the comments or contact me via YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or through email at behavioreducationllc@gmail.com or through my website at behavioreducation.org. If you want to learn how to train your own snakes or other animals, I do work with other species, or you just have more behavior questions and you want behavior consulting, or you want just private one-on-one time or group live chats with me, consider becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/behavioreducation and you can see all of the services that we have to offer there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.